And we are live. Another day with the markets absolutely pumping. Let's take a look at it. Oh, I mean, dumping, absolutely dumping. There we go. We're dumping. Okay, guys, I love you all. We had a stream last Wednesday, but then we didn't have a stream Thursday and Friday. I was in Denver for the ETH Denver event. And just as I was getting over strep throat, then I went to a place with absolutely zero humidity and talked a whole lot. So excuse me for being a little, but it's all good. We are here to talk about a lot of things going on in the market. We've got, as you can see right here, I hope you're ready because the only thing up is whatever that is called ready. Probably some, scam token or something. I don't know. But anyways, look at this. Everything is down. We've got tariffs that were deemed unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, or that the president didn't have the authority to do it under the emergency act that he had used. But now some tariffs are back on, some tariffs are higher than they were before. Markets are being freaked out. We're also having global tensions with Iran. The United States has a couple of very, very big aircraft carriers in the region. So we're going to see what's happening. But good morning to everybody. We're going to get in all of that. We're going to go over what I learned at ETH Denver, projects that I met, projects that I talked to. And I talked to a lot of developers and I asked them a simple question. Do you know what Kaspa is? And I think you might be shocked by the answers to some of that. But I want to go over a lot of projects that I found while I was in Denver. And there's some that I think do have the potential to be a gem. So if you're just joining here, GM to you. Make sure you retweet the live stream if you're over on X. Make sure you share it with a buddy. Send it to a friend who's wondering what's going on with the markets. But before we jump into it, remember, guys, I'm not a financial advisor. None of this is financial advice. I mean, after all, I'm just a random guy that's probably a 5.5 out of 10 on YouTube. I'm just joking, talking about what's going on with the market. But anyways, as always, I thank you all for joining. But yeah, we are down big time across the markets. If we go take a look, Fear and Greed Index is currently at a 14. The overall crypto market cap, $2.22 trillion. But there's a lot of volatility, which does bring very good opportunities for traders. You can see here on Blofin that it broke down right here. And shout out to Blofin. They are a sponsor of the live streams. So I love them. That's where I do all my trading. If you would like to look for a new exchange, you could use the link down below. I get a little kickback referral type stuff on that. Like I said, they are a partner of the channel. But what I like about them is they list a lot of stuff very early. One project that I want to go over in a little bit is this Aztec layer 2 built on Ethereum that I actually just found out about. But let's see who's in here this morning. GM, good morning. Yeah, her and I were tag teaming ETH Denver together. So very good friend of mine over there. Who do we got? Dan, good morning. Yeah, happy Monday, Finance Freeman. Guys, I don't know if you can see my lips. They feel like they're super chapped. I didn't have any chapstick and everything was so dry over there. But we are back. But let's come back over here. Take a look at BTC real quick before we get into the show. Give some time for some people to join in here. But yeah, basically we've been down, on BTC. We hit this low of right at 60K. Like I said, I had orders at 58.2 that got front ran, but now you can see we kind of, broke out of that right there. And a lot of charts look the same. But what started the dump, or what started the recent dump, we should say? Let's come over here and look. 6-3 rolling. The Supreme Court blocked President Trump from using. Okay, so this wasn't all tariffs, so let's go over this. Using emergency powers to impose sweeping tariffs on most U.S. trading partners. And what's interesting about this is that with this IEEPA Act, the president could do an embargo, which is basically cutting off all trade from trading partners. But what they deemed he did not have the authority to do is collect $1 from the importers, that are taking products. But he does have the power to just completely cut off the imports all in all. So I understand the argument from the president's side, but at the same time, it did not say tariffs in that act that he used, but they're already working on ways to put more tariffs in place that we will get into. What's interesting about this is currently, if we take a look at the Supreme Court, which if you're not from the United States and you have no idea what the Supreme Court is, it's basically the highest court that we have. So anything that is a constitutional or law-based challenge goes to the Supreme Court, and they're kind of the final rule on everything. Whether this is, something like this, or it's if the president has this amendment, or if, this part of the Constitution gives powers to what branch, that would all be, decided by the Supreme Court if it had to go into litigation with that. But what's interesting about this is there's currently 6 conservatives on the Supreme Court and 3 Democrats on the Supreme Court, or liberals, whatever you want to refer to it as. And so with the 6-3 ruling against the president, that means that 3 conservatives went, the other way, which, I don't necessarily, have a huge opinion on this, but what I do like to see is that I hate it when people just stick by party lines. Like, oh no, I'm a Republican, so I vote only this way because that's what they say, right? Or I'm a Democrat and I vote only this way. It's like, no, we should be, bipartisan or no partisan, where you can just make opinions based on what the facts are and things like that. But I was originally thinking it could be bullish, like, hey, no tariffs, it could let the markets come up and stuff. But there's other, laws that do allow the Supreme, or does allow the president to be able to do tariffs and stuff. And as he says, you can see, like, man, you got to love it. You got to love the pettiness. Look right here. The Supreme Court will be using lowercase letters for a while based on complete lack of respect. I don't like that, but it's, I laugh. I think, whatever, right? But he said, accidentally and unwittingly gave me, the president of the United States, far more powers and strength than I had before. Da, da, da. So basically saying that more tariffs can come on. He set 15% global tariffs, added 10%. So tariffs are like 5 to 25%. Some countries that the United States had negotiated and the Trump administration had negotiated trade deals with, they came out and were like, hey, actually, we're going to pause these deals with the uncertainty. And so that's where he came out with this. Any country that wants to play games with the Supreme Court decision, especially those who have ripped off the USA for years and even decades, will be met with a much higher tariff rate. And then he says, as president, I do not have to go back to Congress to get approval for tariff. It has already been given in many forms a long time ago. They were also just reaffirmed by the Supreme Court. So basically, I was hoping for, and I think what markets were hoping for whenever the tariff decision came down, was that there would be no more uncertainty. Well, what happened now is that we're going to have a lot of uncertainty. And I think that's part of what we're seeing in the markets. We've got uncertainty with, tariffs. We've got a lot of uncertainty with what's about to happen in a couple of days in the stock market, which I want to get into, which is very, very, very huge. It's the only thing I'm really paying attention to from a financial perspective. And on the other side of things, there is a lot of uncertainty with global tensions, what's going to happen with Iran. The United States is definitely positioning themselves to make something happen. But if anybody wanted just a little bit of, maybe you call this bullishness, maybe you don't. I call it inflation. But Zach, a buddy of mine over on X and a wonderful YouTuber, wonderful content creator, and a man of integrity. I have a lot of respect for Zach. Breaking: Trump announces $2K tariff payment to middle-class Americans. Said he'll proceed without Congress approval. So let's take a listen to this, see what the president said, and then we're going to start diving into the chart and things like that.
Or do you think you can do that unilaterally?
No, I don't think we would have to go the Congress route, but we'll find out. The reason we're even talking about it is that we have so much money coming in from tariffs that we'll be able to issue at least a $2,000 dividend and also pay down debt for the country. but we'd do a $2,000 dividend to the people of our country. Would probably set a limit of income limit where it made sense, but we will be able to make a very substantial dividend to the people of our country. I believe we can do that without Congress.
So, I mean, personally, if you want my opinion, I don't like this kind of thing. I know there's some people out there that, and let me know what you think about stimulus, but we've seen what happened last time they were giving out free money. One thing we've got to realize is nothing is free. There's literally no such thing as free. Now, it may be free to you, but somebody pays for it. In this scenario, who would pay for it is the people who imported these goods that were tariffed. But everyone pays for something. Like we just seen New York, the mayor of New York that was saying everything would be free or all this stuff would be free, right? Then he's like, hey, actually, we may have to raise taxes on everybody because we're in a deficit. So nothing is free in this world. And nothing is without consequence in this world, especially whenever it comes to finances. Because, okay, let's say, 50% of households or 80% of households, who cares, get $2,000 stimulus checks. Well, what is it? What happens? They go out and they buy goods and services, and that comes with inflation. Okay, it's just simple supply and demand. If your supply is right here, okay, and the demand goes up, well, now these goods, you've got the same amount of people fighting with more liquidity that they have for those goods, so the price goes up. Simple supply and demand economics. And so something like this is inflationary, which I do not like, and I don't think anybody likes inflation because of what we've seen over the last few years, right? Inflation's been extremely high all the way around the world because of fiat money printing, which is why I love assets like Bitcoin. That's why I love assets like Kaspa. That's why I love crypto. And not just crypto, crypto gives me a sense of freedom. But I like fixed assets. And I think we're seeing that, that trend go around with gold and everything else. But I do want to get into and start diving into my ETH Denver trip. It was a wonderful trip. Had a very, very good time. Met a lot of really good people. I would like to just shout out so like I made this post about my wife and our kids and how I met and how she's home taking care of our little family while I'm out doing my thing. That's us when we got married. My wife, I was 19, I think, at this time. When I was 19, that was a best friend of mine that I grew up with back in the day. That's her and I. Right after we met, I was 17 years old then. That was Freeman back in the day, guys. So yeah, without her, I definitely wouldn't be able to go to those events. This is Empress, the one who commented earlier, right here. Her and I, we went together. We have each other's back, stuff like that. So this is just an appreciation post, but met a lot of good people, that I want to go over, but also talk to some projects. And so that's kind of what I'll highlight right here. I was surprised to see Algorand, and there's somebody that's been a supporter of the channel for a while, and they're building a lot of really cool stuff with real world assets. Algorand is a blockchain that is 7-8 years old, right? And they're focusing really hard on real world assets right now, and not just real world assets that we hear about all the time, like, oh, let's tokenize stocks, stuff like that, but about supply chain. There's a lot of things going around with the supply chain management. So this could be like soybeans or anything, right? Being able to manage all that. They're also doing real estate tokenization with Lofty. They've got a prediction market. They're doing a lot of stuff. But one thing they're very proud of is that they're quantum secure. And so this is a blockchain that's been around for a very long time, right? Tried and true. I like them a lot. I'm actually working on getting them up here to talk about Lofty and talk about the prediction market. So hopefully, sorry, I keep hearing something in the background. But give me 1 second, guys. My apologies, everyone. I had somebody at the door. They kept banging on the door. Sorry. But I'm gonna have Algorand up tomorrow for the coming up, trying to talk about, or a developer on Algorand coming up, trying to talk about what they are doing, what they are building, and all that cool stuff. But there was a lot of good people there. And I want to shout out to Rachel from On-Chain Media. She is a content creator, but she's really a hustler. Like, you'll be hard pressed to find anybody that is a harder worker than Rachel. She owns this company called On-Chain Media right here. And she started off primarily as base. She's still very, very heavily in base, but she does other chains and things like that. And she invited me up right here to speak. She hosted a side event. She invited me up to speak. This is her right here, inviting me up, and it was all recorded. So we should have that content being posted at some point. But I was able to get up and give a speech about, not only my story, but content creation and what makes a good influencer versus a bad influencer. I think a lot of us get a bad rap a lot of the times, right? Dumping on communities, this or that, but there's actually a lot of good people out there. It just gets overshadowed by the bad ones. So whenever this comes out, I'll make sure that we can watch it on stream and everything. But I was very, very thankful for her offering me the floor to come up and talk about that. So I just wanted to give a shout out to her. And then I met this gentleman from the XRP community. He hosts a lot of spaces. You can see 11.3 thousand. And this gentleman right here, Mr. Zam. And so we met the first night there, went to an event, or not an event, like a little bar and restaurant kind of thing. And we met there, and we didn't even talk about XRP. We just talked about life, talked about kids, talked about being a parent, talked about, the challenges of life and all this stuff. And I wish we would have had more time to talk about XRP, but we didn't. We were just talking about life and talking about stuff like that. So it was super cool, super, super cool. But now I want to bridge into Kaspa a little bit, but it's not going to start out as Kaspa. So if we look right here, this was me doing an interview at ETH Denver with a developer on BSV chain. If you don't know what BSV is, it stands for Bitcoin Satoshi Vision. And the history of BTC is that originally you had Bitcoin, right? But there had been multiple forks off of Bitcoin. And basically a fork is when miners don't agree on something. So if 51% go one way, that is Bitcoin. And then other forks off. And so we've seen Bitcoin Cash come out of this. And we've also then later seen BSV come out of this. And this is essentially unlimited block size. I think they try to keep it around 8 gigs, but you're talking about megabytes on Bitcoin. And so what they say is that this is the true vision of Bitcoin. This is Satoshi's vision of how it was supposed to be. A peer-to-peer cash that you can actually use, that you can actually put data on, actually do things on chain. And so this is Kate. She used to be a Fox News reporter, and now she's full-time crypto, and she's very heavily into the BSV community. And this right here is Project Babbage. I believe I pronounced that right. And they're working on making BSV have utility, and they have on-chain apps built, like a social media. They have games, just any kind of thing, right? He's talking really good about, he was explaining to me about how they're doing, like real world assets. But with BSV, it's 1 block per 10 minutes. Now they're bigger blocks, they're larger blocks, and the code is hard. But I asked them, this community right here, it's a $300 million market cap. I asked him, I said, hey man, what do you think about Kaspa? And basically the response was, what's Kaspa? And so I came in here and I was explaining to him what Kaspa is, who Jonathan Sompolinsky is, how we were originally 1 block per second on Kaspa. Now we're 10 blocks per second on Kaspa, eventually 32 and even 100 blocks per second on Kaspa. I explained what VProgs were, and he understood the DAG, the block DAG, and all of that. Like I'm saying, this is very, very, very intelligent developers, a lot smarter than me, definitely a lot smarter than me. But they had no idea what Kaspa was. Absolutely no idea. And I asked I would say anywhere between 8 and 10 developers. I asked them what they thought about Kaspa. One of them knew of what Kaspa was, and all they knew about it was that it was basically a peer-to-peer currency, and there was no way to build smart contracts on it and stuff. And so I updated. I'm like, hey, all this is changing. I showed them Chat, which is the messaging platform that we showcased last week. But that's my point whenever I get into this, that we need some kind of promotion, that we need to be able to, take this very technical stuff and get the message out, whether it's coming up on my stream, whether it's coming up on my YouTube channel, whether it's coming up on just anybody's platform, Zach Humphreys, Crypto Empress, it doesn't matter, anybody's platform, because I truly feel like a lot of us in the Kaspa community, like if this is Kaspa guy number 1, Kaspa guy number 2, we're just sitting there talking to each other, telling each other how good we are, but we really got to get these developers from the outside into Kaspa. None of them, they looked up the chart. Nobody had a concern about the chart. Everybody knows how crypto is. Crypto, we're down bad right now. Everybody knows that. It wasn't a problem. The chart's not a problem. They care about the tech. And what is it going to take for the price of Kaspa to go up, in my opinion? What it's going to take for the price of Kaspa to go up is for builders to come and continue to build on Kas and build real things that people want to use. And when people want to use it, they will have to buy Kas in order to transact on the Kaspa network. The same reason, I've showed this time and time again, the same reason why Solana has done well. Solana has done well not because people love the Sol token. Solana has done well because of the fact that people buy it to transact on the Solana blockchain. Okay, the same reason why Ethereum did well last cycle with NFTs. People had to buy the native asset in order to swap into the other assets on the chain, and so the problem that we have is that there's people out there in like the BSV community, and like, mind you, this isn't somebody that's like from Solana. This is somebody that's seen Bitcoin and said, okay, yeah, we need to be able to make this actually what Satoshi wanted. And so they went on the fork side of things. They did not stick with the Bitcoin that is now a store of value, even though the white paper from Satoshi said a peer-to-peer digital currency. So these are the kind of people that we need coming into Kaspa, and we have to be able to have these conversations and get in front of them. And I was so happy to be able to, talk to them about that. I was able to meet with a gentleman named Kurt recently, and I'm going to have him up here on the channel. We met whenever I made this post talking about, the problems Bitcoin has with basically no fees on the base network. This is a real problem. I've showed this, before. In fact, this clip was from this stream, and we can watch it again if y'all want. But, Bitcoin produces 144 blocks a day, which is 1 block every 10 minutes. Well, at the time of posting this, the total fees for the day were 2.6 Bitcoin, which is $180,000. Well, it currently costs about $70,000 to mine a Bitcoin. And there's 3.125 Bitcoin in a block. So that means each block that happens 10 minutes, people are being compensated about $200,000 for that to happen. Well, what happens when the subsidy runs out? Meaning that next halving, there will be like 1.7, 1.6 BTC. The halving after that, which is just 7 years away, it's going to have to be 0.7 BTC is going to be the subsidy, okay? This is meant not for a forever approach. That's why there's a halving that eventually runs out. This is supposed to be so that, you can subsidize the miners financially until there is enough room for fees to grow. And right now, there is only enough fees without the subsidy to handle 1 block. To finance 1 block. So 1 out of 144 blocks a day is all the base network has fees for. And so when we talk to somebody that's in the BSV community, like the developer that I just showed you, that is like exactly who we need for Kaspa, because that is their goal. They want to make Satoshi's vision come true. And we in the Kaspa community like to say that, Bitcoin was Kaspa's test net. And I truly believe that when we look at everything Kaspa is doing, that Kaspa has been able to achieve what the Bitcoin white paper said, a peer-to-peer digital currency, but we can also build on it. We can also have all kinds of real-world applications on it. It would be the perfect chain for AGI, for AI agents to do microtransactions back and forth and to be able to build privacy layers and everything. But we really need to target, in my opinion, people that are like from the Bitcoin Cash community, that are from the BSV, Bitcoin Satoshi Vision community. What I often see on X is that people from the Kaspa community, they see somebody talking about Bitcoin and they just get there talking. And it's not really a lot of inviting. It's almost like, well, how's Bitcoin going to survive? Kind of like the post that I made, but that's okay to talk about sometimes, but we need to be able to get these people, in my opinion, not even people from main Bitcoin, people that went to Bitcoin Cash, people that went to BSV, because their opinion on what Bitcoin's supposed to be is not what we all know today as Bitcoin, right? They're not talking about the BTC that we've got a treasury reserve for that Michael Saylor's buying. They're talking about one that you're able to program on, you're able to actually utilize the features and everything. And so that's something I am very happy and I'm very blessed that I had the opportunity to go to ETH Denver and I had the opportunity to network with these folks. But I have that interview coming out with them and I look forward to doing collaborations with them. And I want to have Kurt on this stream and I'll talk to him about not only BSV because he really likes it a lot and everything, but to be able to talk about what his opinion is on Kaspa. I haven't had the opportunity to ask him if he knows what Kaspa is yet. And so I definitely want to do that and I want to get his take on everything. But he is definitely, somebody that has the true vision of what Satoshi wanted, right? Bitcoin was never meant to be a speculative asset. He talks about this a lot right here. He talks a lot in here, like when did it come down to the point to where Bitcoin was a store of value? The reason it came that way is because the blocks were kept small during the block wars. Like the code for BTC is not the code that there was originally. And I love Bitcoin. I own Bitcoin and I want Bitcoin to succeed. But there are better networks out there. And at least there's better networks out there that are doing what the original Bitcoin white paper said it was supposed to do. Okay. And that's what I mean by that. And the reason that I think people from like BSV and Bitcoin Cash are so great is because they love proof of work and Kaspa is proof of work. And so that's a little highlight, guys, of who I met over at ETH Denver. And but now I want us to branch into some macro stuff and what's about to happen with the markets. Orange juice. Trying to get some vitamins in me. Get my throat right. Okay, there's this viral article from Citrini Finance, the 2008 Global Intelligence Crisis, okay? And this was interesting to me. And what the title of it was saying was that pretend we're in 2028. Unemployment is 10 point something percent. The S&P is down 28%, the S&P 500. But it's not because the AI bubble busted. It's because AI potentially did more than we ever thought it would. Created more unemployment, replaced even more jobs. And so this is over on citriniresearch.com. The 2008 Global Intelligence Crisis says, this is the macro memo from June 2008 detailing the progression and fallout of the global intelligence crisis. The unemployment rate printed 10.2%, a 0.3% upward surprise, meaning that in 2008 they were expecting 9.9%, right? So you've got to envision seeing into the future. The market sold off 2% on the number, bringing a cumulative drawdown to 38% for the S&P 500 from October of 2026. So this is predicting that the highs in the stock market will be at the end of this year. The euphoria was palpable. Okay, by October 2026, the S&P flirted with 8,000. Okay, we're currently around 7,000 right now. Okay, so that's still a good, 15-20% pump from where we are today. The initial wave of layoffs due to human obsolescence began in early 2026. So this is kind of crazy to think about and everything. And it starts talking about the AI and all that. But when friction went to zero, by early 2027, LLM, large language model usage, so this is ChatGPT and all of those, became default. People were using AI agents who didn't even know what an AI agent was. In the same way, people who never learned what cloud computing was used streaming services. They all thought of it the same way. They thought of autocomplete or a spell check, a thing on their phone now. And so basically what it says is that this part should have unsettled investors more than it did what these agents didn't wait to be asked. They ran in the background according to the user's preferences. Commerce stopped being a series of discrete humans and became continuous optimization process running 24/7 on behalf of every connected consumer. By March of 2027, the median individual in the United States was consuming 400,000 tokens per day. That's how much usage it is, okay? So whenever you put a prompt in, it's tokens is what's being, kind of how people are being charged or how expensive it is. And so then it started talking about like travel booking things. They were the simplest, and agents will just book everything, right? So this is kind of talking about like a utopian world or like a completely automated world that maybe we would envision in 20, 30 years happening in 2 years, and they started talking about DoorDash and all these companies. And if you look at the stock market, a lot of stuff has sold off. And I don't know if it's from this article or what, but it's pretty crazy. It's a really, really, really good read. It's kind of a scary read if you take a look at it. But right here, the AI feedback loop. Okay, so you can see traditional cycle recession. Okay, this is just like a normal recession. Construction slowdown. They lower rates. New construction picks up. Then they overbuild and buy too much stuff, and then we go into recession. Okay, so if we were trying to predict where we are now in this cycle, it's something like, this area right here, right? Things are starting to slow down. People are starting to lay off, but we haven't got to the point of lowering interest rates, right? But in an AI-driven model, it's AI investment increases and AI capability improves. Companies need fewer workers. White collar layoff increases. So that's the key right there. Entry level coders, anything like that. Entry level accountants, maybe eventually advanced accountants. But if you're working with these bad boys right here, if you're doing anything with these, if you're working as a construction man or something, that's going to take a lot longer to automate, right? Than if you were just typing on a computer all day. Displaced workers spend less and the economy weakens. And so then companies invest more into AI to automate even more and protect their profit margin so that they can lower the price of things because people don't have money, right? And, Elon Musk has said before that, oh, yeah, if things happen like we think they're going to happen, you ain't even going to need to worry about retirement. Like everything's going to be in abundance and all of this, and saying that. Basically, this is the traditional cycle of an economy has been predictable. It's been predictable. You can see it happen in cycles. It's normal. Okay. It's normal to have a recession, to reset everything. But what this is saying is basically there's no reset. It's just instead of being a circle, it's just like a downhill highway that the quicker that ball starts rolling, it just doesn't stop at all. And so this is a very interesting see to look at. And so right here it's talking about tech or white collar workforce. They get mass reduction in layoffs, and then they flood the labor market, like the physical labor market. And then unemployment people, they come over and work in like service or gig economy. So this could be DoorDash, this could be driving Uber, things like that. But it's the hourly wages of those jobs compared to being a coder or anything like that, they're lower, right? And whenever that happens, they have less money to spend and stuff. So this is something that obviously I hope never comes to fruition. I think that, it's kind of a scary thought if we take a look at it, but it's a very, very, very interesting thing to look at. And, private credit is currently a problem. If you look at debt and private credit right here, we're already seeing the software companies absolutely go down big time in the stock market because, people are thinking that you're not going to need these, off the shelf software companies anymore, that everything's going to be built specifically for your business, specifically for you. You're seeing all these Mac minis pop up and everyone running these open claw bots and all that. And so it's definitely something to think about. It's definitely something to think about. But one thing we often see in the world is that we always expect things to take off a lot quicker than they do. If you would have asked people back in 1990, like, hey, in 2026, do you think we're going to be driving cars? They'd be like, no, they're going to be flying cars. You know what I mean? But we have seen AI move at a pretty crazy pace, very, very, very much. It's kind of crazy to see, and there's still only about 3% of people are using artificial intelligence right now. But let's not be doom and gloom. Let's look at what are some things that could impact crypto, that could impact this right here. Because if we take a look at the overall crypto market cap, we're down about 50%. You can see we hit this high in October at 4.2 trillion, and we're down $2 trillion. That's a lot of doll hairs to be down, if you know what I mean. So up here, the Clarity Act, potential signing April 3rd. The White House came out and said that we're going to give a March 1st deadline to get the yield thing negotiated from Coinbase and the big banks. The big hang up right now on the Clarity Act is the fact that big banks do not want places like Coinbase to be able to give stable coin yield, which would mean if you had $100 in USDC, for instance, on your Coinbase account, you could opt in and they would lend it out and you would make 3 or 4% interest on it. Big banks don't want that. And so that deadline is March 1st for that. Something interesting about the Clarity Act is if we come over here and go to Polymarket, the odds for this to be done, it dropped down a lot. Let's look at Clarity Act. So it's coming back up a little bit, but you could see the odds for the Clarity Act to be passed were 80 something percent. It dropped down to like 60. Then it was sitting here 72. And then this morning there was a huge sell-off, 39%. It creeped back up to 50. And then it dropped down to only a 36% chance that it gets signed into law. Now it's up to 52% chance. But so this number one thing, the Clarity Act being signed, has now dropped in odds a lot. And the problem with this is that one party right now controls everything, right? The Republicans have the White House, the House, and the Senate. But the odds are that they're going to lose one of them. Okay, let's take a look. Where is that at? If we come over here, House, and see, we're going to see that the midterms, the odds to win the midterms are going to be the Democrats. Okay, and so that means there's going to be a split Congress, which means it's going to be harder to pass something, any legislation, period, because you got to have two different parties agreeing on it. And so we, as a crypto industry, as a crypto community, we need to get this signed into law. We need it for clarity across the board so that we can have large institutions really adopt cryptocurrency. I'm not talking about buying Bitcoin for a Michael Saylor strategic reserve or, a digital asset treasury. I'm talking about we need clarity for them to be able to build payment rails and build all of this infrastructure using the blockchain. And if we don't get this signed into law by November, which is when the midterms are, then it could be a long wait for us in the crypto side of things. The next thing Andy says as a catalyst, which I agree on, is that SEC final deadline for crypto ETF request. This is March 27th. There's a lot of ETFs still wanting to get listed. I even think there's a couple TAL ones, BitTensor TAL ones going to be listed. Number 3, UK allows crypto ETPs in tax advantaged accounts. So this is like a tax advantaged account would be like a retirement account, like a Roth or something like this. This opens the door for significant retail and pension fund inflow. So this is just coming up in about a month and a half. So that's a really big thing that the UK is allowing that. A big catalyst that we have is the end of Jerome Powell's term in May. Leadership change could shift towards a more dovish monetary policy. I also thought we could have had a sooner change in monetary policy had tariffs been completely wiped out, because if you talk to any economist, they're going to tell you that tariffs are inflationary. And so whenever you're looking at interest rates, when you lower interest rates, that's also inflationary. And if you already have higher than you want inflation, which if you look at the government's approach to inflation, we're about 2.3%, where the target is 2%. But with the end of the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell's term, they're going to want to have lower interest rates, because that's why Trump put, Warsh in, is because he thinks he will cut interest rates. And then MiCA full enforcement in the EU, mandatory compliance deadline that will reshape the competitive landscape for crypto firms. And so all of this really still lines up. And every time I keep looking at it, it lines up with my thesis that in my belief, none of this financial advice, that I think that altcoins are going to bottom in anywhere between now and summertime. And I do think Bitcoin's going to bottom around September or October. And I think that'll be the end of the bear market. And, you have a lot of things right here that are catalysts. If we can get the Clarity Act, that'll be huge. Okay. And that will even help alts in quicker, especially like Ethereum, things like that. Ethereum, 60% of all DeFi. It's going to be used heavily as payment rails for stable coins and large institutions. Then you have more ETFs coming in right at the end of the first quarter. You have different countries around the world, like the UK, allowing, pensions and things like that. And you have the Federal Reserve Chair that's going to be changing in May. Say they slash interest rates, okay? That money doesn't flow into the economy right away. It takes time to work through the banking system, get in the hands of companies and individuals, things like that. And then there's a compliance deadline that will also, in the EU, by July 1st, 2026, allow for there to be clarity, okay? So all these big countries around the world are working on ways to bring clarity to the blockchain space. And I think that's when we're going to see this over with. And so I'm very, very, very excited for that. And I like to look for kind of bottom signals on things. And this was a whale that deposited 650 Bitcoin into Gemini after 3 years of inactivity, locking in a profit of 25 million. Okay, that's great. But, at his peak, he was up over double what he sold at. So even though he's still up heavily, it's kind of like a capitulation, and whenever I like to see that, because that tells me the bottom is close to being in my opinion. And so let's come over and I want to look at some things. So I took a lot of trades during this time, just range trading, and I share all of these in the Discord, guys. If anybody wants to join the Discord, feel free. But I share all these trades there. But I like to trade ranges. Like I said, this is a financial advice. It's just what I'm doing. But you can see I traded a lot in these ranges, and I like to open a trade when it's at the bottom of a range, close it at the top of a range. Very, very easy. I was doing the same thing with Tau before it broke down. Let's take an update on Tau. So yeah, let's take that out. But you can see this range right here. Like when it gets up in this range, it's easy short, easy close, things like that. But or I say easy, nothing's easy. But yeah, this is Blofin. This is where I personally do all my trading. Like I said, that they partner with us for the stream, and so the link will be down below if anybody wants to join me and find a new exchange. But yeah, this is Tau, and a project I'm extremely, extremely bullish on. But it just couldn't break through the 200 level for any period of time. It was something that I was really wanting to happen, but it's still holding up better than anything else in the market. If we take a look at it, I mean, this thing was pretty daggum good. Look, what is that? 51%. It was up at one point, and so it's normal to see a retracement and everything. But I've came into this thesis that I think decentralized artificial intelligence is going to be the way. When we see articles like this of AI replacing jobs and everything, it's scary looking at something like this. But what's even more scary is looking at like 2 or 3 companies that control everything, that control, all of this. Like you've got OpenAI, you got Anthropic. That's what's scary to me. And so I think we're going to see a push for decentralized artificial intelligence. And that's why I'm betting on ecosystems such as BitTensor Tau. And so when you take a look at Tau is BitTensor is essentially the world, okay, the AI world, the decentralized world. And then there's subnets that are basically like individual companies built all around that BitTensor. And so there's ways that people can invest in the subnets themselves or the individual companies, or could just bet on the overall ecosystem, which is Tau. And that's what I like to do. Let's see, you popped in. Oh yeah, thank y'all for reposting the stream. Cool. Oh, Deepin, this dude's like 7'8", guys. I tell you, he's really tall. Let me show y'all. Let me show y'all. If I come down here, I posted a picture of us. So when we were there, Crypto Empress, her husband. Oh, this is funny. Y'all are gonna laugh. Her husband's like best friends with the guy that it does marketing for the Denver Symphony. And so she got us tickets to go to this, right? And so there's Ben Crypto. If any of y'all know Ben Crypto, this right here is Rachel from On-Chain Media that I talked about earlier. There's Crypto Empress. This is D-Pin. Like I said, this guy's like pretty tall, right? Makes me look short. And then I posted here, I said, am I the second shortest person? Because I don't know, I think Rachel might have me beat a little bit, but like somebody said in the comments, they were like, well, she does have heels on, right? And so then somebody came out and they made this picture of me. It made me look like a dwarf. And what's funny, it made it look like I was holding his hand. It's like, oh my gosh, guys. I was like, he did not do that to me. This is my buddy, this guy right here, Based on my, he's a really, really good guy. But it was funny. I'm really not that short. I'm 5'10", right? And somebody said that that's a short king. I don't think it's necessarily that short. I mean, what's average height? What's average height for a man? Let's see. Five, 6. See, I'm tall. The average height for adult men in the United States is 5'9". So I am above average height for a man. And I don't think it's fair that they made me look so so small over there. Where is that at? Let me see. Yeah, look at that. I'm average height for a man. These guys are just overly tall, you know. But nah, it was a great time. We went to the symphony. I fell asleep for a little bit. Had a good little power nap during it, you know. But whenever you're at one of those symphonies, it's like this. It's like, you know, they're all playing all those instruments and stuff, and it's like da, 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 and you know you're sleeping, and then all of a sudden it's like bah, and you like wake up. You're like, what the heck's going on? And so, yeah, no, just absolute great time. But I want to show you all another project. So this is one that I traded a lot last week. Me and the Discord, we were trading a lot of it, and everything I made, I basically threw it into Spot Towel and just put that on my cold storage wallet. But you know, there was a couple projects that were there that were not ETH based. You know, like Algorand was there, Canton was there, which is a real world asset project. But this is one that I'd actually not heard of, and it's called Aztec, and I have not traded it yet. I have not done any of that, and I'm just starting to do my research on it. And so I thought it would be fun if we just did a little bit of research together on it. And I'll tell you why I liked it when I originally heard about it. So this is Aztec, the leading privacy layer 2 on Ethereum. And when we think about that, it's aimed towards privacy. And if we go back and we think about the tweet that Vitalik made a couple weeks ago when the market was really crashing, he came out and made a tweet about that, you know, Ethereum is having all these updates, that Ethereum is going to be extremely cheap, and that Ethereum is going to be scalable, and that layer 2s in the world that they've been thus far are no longer needed. Meaning, if the only point of a layer 2 is to be scalable, then it's not needed anymore because the base layer can do that. What he said was that if he was a layer 2, and this is Vitalik speaking, and I'm paraphrasing, that he would focus on like a specialty. Okay, maybe you're like the AI agent chain, which is where I think we're going to see base go. Maybe you're the privacy chain. And that right here is what Aztec is working on. So this is them at On-Chain Summit. They had some events going on, but I just want to do a little bit of live research on it right here. This was their booth right here. I was able to talk to that lady. She was very, very nice. Let's see. A look at the war room. Every TG has unexpected. Maybe we come back and listen to some of these. But this was day one. Hey, stakers, come hang out. We've got exclusive swag waiting for you. So, but let's do a little bit of research on what Aztec is, because like I've said time and time again, guys, the time to be doing research, the time to be finding these like world-changing technologies, like I believe Tau is, that I believe Kaspa is, and that possibly Aztec could be. The time to do that is not when everything is pumping. The time to do that is when sentiment's at an all-time low. The time to do that is when fear and greed indexes, you know, in the single digits or well under 20. When altcoin season is nowhere to be found. That's when. You know what I mean? I always say the money is made when you buy, not when you sell. Like entry is everything. You know, if you were somebody that bought BTC at the bear last year or last cycle for 15, 20K, I mean, yeah, you're down 50% from all-time high, but you're still up at 3 or 4x, right? So timing is absolutely everything. But let's take a look at what Aztec is doing, what they are working on over here. So let's see. Let's go to the website right here. The next renaissance. Okay, you are now entering. Okay, I rate the website just from optics 5 out of 10. not my cup of tea. Not my cup of tea from a website perspective, but let's see what they have to offer. Privacy, it's a problem. We need it. Enforced transparency is holding blockchain back. Without end-to-end privacy, real-world assets and players will never fully come on chain. And I agree with this, right? Blockchains are completely anonymous unless you dox yourself. At the same time, they're completely transparent. So imagine you're a large company, okay, or even a small company, it doesn't matter, and you're wanting to do payroll on the blockchain, right? And you look at all these services, these like software services, ADP and all these companies that do payroll. It's expensive, okay? So imagine this was all on the blockchain. But I hire you and you're very good at what you do, and all the people that work for me are making $25 an hour. But you want $28 an hour. And I really like you and I think you're worth it. So I hire you, right? Well, imagine if every Thursday, y'all got paid on base USDC. And I went over, and then you clicked on your check stub, or your where you received your payment from. You went to the wallet and you've seen all these other payments going out. And you're like, hey, why is this guy making more money than me? Or why am I making less than them, or this or that, right? That's where this privacy thing gets into. It doesn't have to be, because I'm trying to hide from the government or any of that. No, it's just privacy. It's just privacy. The same reason why you don't want to, leave your door wide open and let people see what you're doing in your house. We don't have it. Today's privacy is pretend. Centralized sequencers, backdoors, and teas will never meet our bar. We don't need an add-on. We need a real end-to-end system. It needs to be flexible. Privacy can't be all or nothing. Builders need to be able to program privacy at different levels and layers that make sense for their projects. I agree with that. Maybe you don't want full-on privacy with everything. Say you're running a business and you want the payroll part to be private, but you want pricing for some of your products to be transparent so that customers know that, they're all paying the same, that I'm not trying to upsell you for this and I'm giving it to somebody else for 20% cheaper, right? I think privacy is very important. It needs to be practical. Privacy has to make sense for developers. Easy to code, fast to execute, and affordable to scale. Aztec is the blockchain that makes mastered the privacy problem. I wonder how long they've been working on this. Okay, let's take a look at the basics. Okay, the basics. If you're new to Aztec, welcome. This is the rundown on Aztec, what it is and how it works and why it matters. Blockchains weren't built for privacy. Previous attempts have never fully delivered. Without solving privacy at the base layer, networks remain exposed no matter what's built on top. Patchwork solutions like centralized sequencers, trusted execution environments, or mixers may sound credible, but they fall short. And when privacy breaks, everything on chain is at risk. Identities, accounts, assets, even institutions. See, I'm somebody that thinks the entire world's coming on chain. When I have grandchildren in 20 years, I would expect that their social security, their birth certificate is stamped on chain. Their birth is stamped on chain, right? But you wouldn't want someone knowing your social security number, right? But you would still want to know that that person was born. They are, legally registered or whatever in the system. And so this is a way that it could be done. So it's pretty cool. We all know that privacy can't be add-on. It has to be native, end-to-end from the start. It needs to be flexible, easy to code, fast to execute, and affordable to scale. Okay, Aztec is the blockchain that mastered the privacy problem. So programmable privacy gives developers nuanced control and says what's private and what goes public. Client-side proofs never exposes sensitive information on-chain in the first place. It's good. Composable privacy maintains end-to-end privacy across different applications and change. Day one decentralization. eliminates any central authority and the potential for exploitation. What is this? Block height, network operators, and active sequencers. Okay. How it works. This is getting a little higher level. Let's see if it loses me here. Users here, developers here. Okay. Private functions, public functions. Okay. Output. Okay. So you have private functions right here. They come through private proof. Okay, and this is coming from like the developer, so the smart contract, like the app or whatever that would be built on here. Okay, then they go to a decentralized sequencer network, which is Aztec, as you can see right here. It verifies private transaction proof. So this is using like a ZK proof. Yeah, right here. So that's what all this is about ZK proof, is that, you know, it doesn't have all the information in it. All it has is the proof of it. So let's say that you had a kid and that kid had shots and that kid had a social security number and all that stuff. But I wanted to put that on chain. Well, you have to use something that's decentralized, that is able to verify all of that. Yep, he's got all of his shot records. Yep, his mom is really his mom. His dad's she said it's his dad, right? They always say that mama's baby, daddy's maybe. And I always thought that was funny. But then all you send out is this ZK proof, which says, yep, this is 100%, you know, reliable and verifiable. But you're not able to necessarily go see, well, what shots did he have, or what is his social security number? But what you're able to see is that, yes, it is done. And so this is being settled on the L1 mainnet. So, guys, this looks good. This looks good, yeah. They listed this over on Blofin. Let's see, like, I want to see when it TGE'd. So from there to there, it had a 786 retrace. Let's see if we were to do that again, what that would look like. About right here. I don't know if it'll make it there. That was a pretty gnarly pump. I wonder what started that pump. Let's see. That was February 19th. When was that? Thursday. Was that the first day of On-Chain Summit? I'm not On-Chain Summit. Was that the first day of ETH Denver? Did somebody come in and like it and just pop it up, or did Vitalik mention it or something? But I did hear that they're being supported by the ETH Foundation or Vitalik or something in there. Let's come over here and see. All-time low, Feb 18th. Try to see when exactly it launched. Yeah, so it just launched like 2 weeks ago. Good distribution. Top 10 hold 40%. But when you take a look at it, look at everywhere they're listed already. This Coinbase, they're listed on Coinbase, Upbit, Bybit, Gate, Mexi, Kraken, HTX, Blofin. They're listed everywhere. I like it. %30 dip. Yeah, I like this. Let's see what else they got going on. They have a Discord, join the team, YouTube, forum, docs. Yeah, like the only one thing that I'm like, you know, a little weird is that this page was from 2018. It's like, what was this, just like a dormant page? Like, how many posts are they showing? Zach Aztec, let's look. Co-founder of Aztec Network, building the private world computer, cryptographer, software engineer, ex-partial physicist. Huh, okay. So, you know, they TG'd in a very bad market, token generation event, when they launched. So let's see about this. Why we're moving forward with token generation event. Markets are down. Some say there's a mass exodus from the blockchain industry and that it's a cold crypto winter. Last month, our community voted through a governance vote for TGE. Still, everyone wants to know why we're moving forward. The community isn't scared, neither are we. From our tech stack to our token design, Aztec was built to last. We've been building since 2017, brick by brick. Every step of the way has been intentional. The privacy infrastructure is now in place, and this time next year, every smart contract will be private. Aztec was built for this moment. We're well positioned, and our token design is resilient, even in this market. Here's why. The foundation treasury is funded from the public sale. The foundation has a treasury of 1.2 billion tokens, 12% of total supply, of which 7.7% is locked for what, 8-9 months. Okay. While other foundations need to use their TGE to sell their own tokens into the market, we will not be doing this. We believe our tokens are valuable and plan to hold them. Over 60% of the tokens from the sale are staked. Over 60% of tokens sold are staked, even without fractional or liquid staking. This signals long-term alignment, and these are the stakeholders whose participation will ultimately determine Aztec's success. In the last week, the percentage of tokens staked has continued to increase by about 8 million. Every token holder has a cost basis. While our decision not to airdrop was controversial, this means that our tokens are in the hands of holders who assign value to them and hold them at non-zero cost, meaning that a whole bunch of people didn't get airdropped for free and they're just going to go dump them. Users with no alignment to the network and no interest in its long-term success are simply not in our base of holders. That's how we think it should be. No insider staking and 36-month insider lockups. Insider tokens remain locked from 12 months from the beginning of the sale, with full unlock to a current 36-month. Disciplined exchange negotiations to preserve tokenomics. Yeah, because you can see they went after a ton of exchanges, right? So it's saying that they, did this in a way that won't allow them just to be dumped. Launch price established by price discovery and a public sale. Aztec launched with Uniswap's CCA mechanism to enable fair on-chain price discovery in the public sale. By design, CCA established an Aztec Ath Uni V4 pool at launch, which was seeded with 273 million Aztec tokens, about 2.5% of the supply, and 4.2 thousand ETH, making it the third largest Uni V4 pool that exists. With the third largest V4 pool on Uni, the token is exposed to less volatility. Yeah, that's right. The more liquidity you have, the more. Does it tell us what the liquidity is here? Or would I have to go to? Come over here. See, 12,000 holders. Trying to look at the liquidity pool. Okay. I'll look into that later. But I'll take their word for it. Within a year, every smart contract worth deploying will be private. They will be deployed on Aztec. So now let's see. I like Aztec. That's cool. That's cool. May definitely have to look into that. Nice, but still token is down 50% from ICO price, even in pre-market. Okay, so then every L2, according to this would be impossible to blame Binance if price trades 50% lower tomorrow, because I don't reckon less than 1% can dump that much. Zero airdrop too. Let's see who dumps the chart. Let's see what just people are saying. Aztec. I'm currently staying away from this one. It's a pure gamble. Aztec is a good product with actual potential use cases. Banks, crypto, has a good team behind it. Doxed attended. However, it's untradeable without a lot of risk. Let me explain. You can't long it. There's no real reason for this to run more. What do you mean you can't long it? I mean, I can long it if I wanted to. I mean, it could be longed on Blofin. I don't know what he's talking about. Maybe it changed. I don't know. Let's see, where was that at? You can't long it. There's no real reason. It's up 94% in the last 3 days solely because of the Upbit listing. You can't short it either. What do you mean? I don't know. Okay. Aztec, below 100 million, insane 5+ years experience. First to do a public sale with Uniswap CAA. Sale participants are out. The only privacy infrastructure on ETH. First privacy token on Ladder with smart, yes, higher. So this guy got in at 0.019. Let's see where it is now. Let me close out some of these tabs. So 0.019 was right here when he got in. I mean, I don't know. I like it. But I do want to see what other people are saying. The CEO worked at CERN. He invented Plonk. They built the first fully decentralized privacy layer 2. It dumped 52%. Aztec is a case study with one rule. Great tech plus bad tokenomics equals retail exit liquidity. But here's the twist. 180 plus sequencers, which is real decentralization. Nor ecosystems growing. Smart contracts coming, okay? VCs locked until 2027. If this bleeds to 100 to 150 FDV, risk reward flip. So let's see where it's at now. I can't see that here. Let's okay, so it's a 270 FDV. But you know, if we go look at, you know, Base doesn't have a token, so it's really hard to say that. But like if we go look at like Arbitrum's currently 900 FDB. If we look at Optimism got crushed lately because Base is going to build their own, like actual own everything. Base was historically using the OP stack. So basically Optimism stack. But this is 500 FDV. And when we see Aztec's 270. I mean, I don't know. Privacy is a huge narrative right now, right? I guess by now you already know the reason why Aztec price didn't move along with futures. It's now going to settle where it belongs, giving no room for shorts. Okay. Only after a 73% pump, almost have the same amount of ETH I put into the Aztec sell, but even the same amount of ETH, I'm still 30. Yeah. He's saying that it dropped under the sell price, and then it's paired with ETH, right? Not USDC. So ETH went down so much. So then he's kind of break even. So what is this? Your bids. View your bid and claim your token. So spent $500 or 0.16 ETH on 10K tokens. So what's it at now? Is it $500? Well, he shouldn't have been complaining. Look, he would have been up so 18,000 tokens for $500 right now. And what did he buy? Oh yeah, he should be complaining. Yeah, about half off. So I wonder why that is. I wonder why people dump. Maybe they're just scared of the market. Let's see. The funding rate is so high. Just testing the waters. Let's look at the funding rate. Negative. So a lot of people are shorting it, which means, man, I love funding things. I love trading things when the funding rate's like super negative, because I'm like, man, if we just get some spot pressure, we can start a short squeeze. But there's good volume though. Yeah, this is man, I don't know. We'll see where this one lays out. Let's see if this dude knew what his thing was. Let's see if he knew what he was talking about. He said it was going to do this. Okay, so on the 17th it was here. Let's see where it went. Attaboy, there you go, dude. Yeah. Boom. Yeah, he did good. He did good right there. Aztec Network, an Ethereum-based privacy-focused L2 rollup, launched its Aztec token, gaining traction as a privacy demand rises amongst crypto users. It secured simultaneous listings on Upbit and Bithumb. But I thought it was listed on Coinbase. Isn't that what it said? Yeah. Now, is that actual Coinbase? Or is that like the Coinbase DEX? I don't think if it was Coinbase DEX, it would be listed there. I don't know, guys. Let me know what y'all think about Aztec. If y'all are watching over on YouTube, I appreciate it. We got a couple hundred people in here. Make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, and if you're over on X, make sure you follow your boy, so I'll keep you updated with everything. But Aztec short, yeah, I don't know. I like Aztec. I want to see where it goes though from here, because it did pump pretty good on those listings. Like what was it up? Yeah, it did like a 2x on those listings, and now it's retracing. You can really, if I was looking for some kind of like support on this thing, I know it's a really young chart. I would probably, about where it's at now. You can see where it's at now has been a point in its little short life that's been resistance and support. You look here, you look here, you can see here, and now you can see here. And so kind of at a table, a turntable right now. It's like, what are we gonna do? I'm gonna do a little more look at it off stream, but I might. I don't know. How high can I go? Okay. And guys, just because I do something don't mean you should be doing it, but never financial advice. So what would this be? If what is that? 2629. I'm gonna give it a go. See how that goes. Let's see here. Okay, so I got my stop loss under this low right here, and the reason I took it is just because there has been some support at these levels, you know, like I highlighted before and stuff. So yeah, we'll see where that goes, guys. Like I said, this is over on Blofin. There will be a link below if anyone's interested, but we'll see where it goes. Let's see what's happening over on the timeline. This is Empress and Jess. I was able to meet her at one of the events. AI agent launched by talented docs builders continue to outperform. Yeah, I have to look into some of these. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Bitmine unrealized loss is almost 9 billion. Wow, that's crazy. Wow, that's crazy. FTX, when FTX collapsed, it was 8 billion in lost funds. But Bitmine, which is Tom Lee's company that's been buying Ethereum, they're down 9 billion, more than the FTX collapse. That's crazy. So much more than Mt. Gox, twice what 3AC, double almost what Celsius was. Wow. Huh. This is absolutely insane. Claude announced Claude Code Security. This is automated AI tool that scans code bases for vulnerability. As of 1 p.m. today, just 2 trading days later, CrowdStrike has erased 20 billion from its market cap. Yeah, AI is going to automate a lot of stuff, guys. A ton of stuff. Oh, this is funny. What company will be the main target of Zach XBT's investigation? So yeah, he came out and said major investigation dropping February 26th on one of the crypto's most profitable businesses where multiple employees abused internal data for insider trading. And what's interesting about this is that Eric Trump has been deleting a whole bunch of tweets. Let's take a look, see if I can find this. I think I have it over here. So yeah, Zach XPT announced this investigation. And then if we come take a look, Eric Trump has been deleting a lot of tweets regarding World Liberty Financial and USDC or USD1. Kind of interesting, right? And then right here, the USD1 had a depeg earlier, a slight depeg. It wasn't like 50 cents or nothing like that. And it was said that they came out saying that they had people targeting them. So the World Liberty Financial situation is crazy. Zach XPT announces major inciting trader investigation. USD1 nearly depegged today. Eric Trump allegedly deleted some World Liberty Financial tweets. World Liberty Financial claims it was a coordinated attack. Eric Trump post about World Liberty Financial later. Yeah. Very, very, very interesting with everything that's going on. But But yeah, the markets are looking rough, guys. We got a lot of news coming up. We know there's stuff going on in Iran. Iran and the United States. I pray all that's resolved and quick and everything. But that is global tensions that we have going on. And then we have tariffs getting thrown left and right. We don't know what the heck's going to happen. So there's a lot of uncertainty. One thing I want to tell you about is that this Wednesday is going to be huge. This Wednesday, you have Dell reporting earnings. You have Circle, which is the company behind USDC reporting earnings. But really, the main one after hours on Wednesday that's reporting earnings is going to be NVIDIA. And I truly believe that the entire stock market is waiting on NVIDIA earnings. The entire market, period, is waiting on NVIDIA earnings. If we come over here and look at the Qs, kind of looks like this thing wants to roll, guys. I'm not going to lie. Kind of looks like it wants to come down to, 500 maybe. Right now we're just flirting at this 600 level. It kind of looks like a rolling top to me. I measured this rolling top out the other day, which is, you measure it the same way as a Head and Shoulders, but so basically from here to the neckline, and that takes it to about 220, 525. But if you're going to make it to 525, might as well make it to 500, right? But either way, that would be a 10 to almost 20% correction hypothetically in the stock market. 600 is a huge psychological level. And if that happens, I expect, everything to sell off, right? But those earnings, NVIDIA earnings that the entire stock market is waiting for, that's going to be coming out tomorrow, guys. And so let's see. We're taking a checkup on my trade tomorrow. We're at this pivotal point right here on Aztec. I like the privacy narrative, though. I do. I like the privacy narrative. So let's see where it goes. If you follow on YouTube, thank you so much. Hit the bell notification. If you want to trade with me, check it out. It's Blofin, their financial advice, but there will be a link down below. And shout out to them for being the stream sponsor. We will see y'all tomorrow at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. I love you all.